Hi, I'm Patu from freefincal, and today we're going to talk about the financial implications of becoming a parent, in particular, becoming a parent for the second time. And this can be a controversial and touchy and sensitive topic. And I found out when I published a guest post from SEBI registered investment advisor Preeti Zente about how she helped a young nuclear family invest for their children's future. She had given detailed working of a family of four parents with two children, and how to plan for each kid's education and each kid's marriage and so on. And many people were so scared and about the kind of money needed for investing for all these goals. Retirement was not even included, and many people on Twitter, well, as usual, many people on Twitter did not believe it, and they said it's wrong, the assumptions are wrong, this is wrong, that is wrong, and so on. Generally, I could feel that there's a lot of denial when it comes to realistic goal planning, and they actually like to. I think many people like a financial advisor giving them nice figures. It's enough if you invest only this much for this goal. They would like they would like low inflation assumptions, high return assumptions, and so on. And I mean, it can. They don't care about reality. This is what this is the lesson I learned after seeing the reactions to this post, and this is just awful. I hope many of you watching this and many of you who are regular readers of Free FinCal are not like that, and they appreciate reality. And that's the reason why I'm talking about this. When it comes to college education, the inflation numbers that you need to take is minimum 10%, and it can be more depending on the area, the kind of degree that you want, and so on. It can be more, but at least 10% inflation year on year is what you need to take while planning. And you cannot take a portfolio or post-tax portfolio return of 10%. Just because inflation is 10%, you cannot have a real return after tax of 10%. That is, your portfolio after tax cannot give you 10%. Just this is what I just talked about. When did I do? Yesterday, day before? Then day before, I said don't make this mistake, because you have to reduce your equity allocation. You can't be 100% in equity. You have to factor all this in, and when you do it, the portfolio return, average return over the investing journey will never be 10%. Even if you take 12% from equity, and if you have 60% of equity initially, it will never be 10% after tax throughout the investing journey. So don't make dumb mistakes like this. You have to be realistic and you have to be conservative. And when you are conservative, automatically then the amount needed for investment will be higher. And many people are saying, no, this is wrong. If this is the case, then what is the point in investing? It's like I don't understand what kind of attitude this is. I mean, even are you basically saying either uh, I want a full cup, or I'm okay with an empty cup? This is the kind of extreme scenarios. Even if you don't get a full cup, if you are able to get a half cup or a three-fourths cup, that is still a victory. Even if you are not able to fund all the expenses for your children's education, even if you are still able to fund half of it or three-fourths of it, that's still a victory, right? I mean, people don't want to think like that. Either they want to win, or it's okay if I lose. That I don't know what kind of attitude this is, seriously. So that is the reason why I want to start a poll about. It's a very controversial poll, and it's a yes or no poll on parenting challenges, and I would like you to participate. So this is it, and there are some questions here, and it is only yes or no, no names or emails or sort. It's completely anonymous. So the first question is, are you a parent? And this is important because if you're, I mean, I will take your responses seriously if you are a parent and if you are going to start a family soon. If you are not a parent and you say, I will not fund my children's college education, I will not participate in their marriage, etc., and so on. Please, if you are not a parent, you have no business talking about what you will do after you become one, or if you become one, and so on. I mean, everything will change once you become a parent. I will give you my example. Many people said, many people, I have seen people say, oh, I will only fund my parents' undergraduation. Their PG is their problem. I will give you an example. I am the living walking example of my parents' sacrifice. My parents were both government servants. They were kind of middle level government servants. They were not earning a lot of money. It was actually barely just sufficient. We were happy, we were a comfortable existence, but they did not plan for goals. um, but I finished my school in 1992. I got a proper job, a proper permanent job only in 2006. Until that time, I did not actually meaningfully contribute to my family's expenses, although I was continuously earning from some money, little bit this or that much. I was continuously earning from 1995, starting from 500 rupees a month. I was earning something, but I was not making any kind of meaningful contribution because the money was either spent by me for my pleasures, or it was enough for my travel or my expenses and so on. They supported me through my BSc, through my MSc, through my PhD, through my postdoctoral assignments until I got a full-fledged job. When my parents did that to me and they changed my life for the better forever, will I tell my son, you go and fund your own PG? I will not help you. How can I say that? I will never say that. Why? I mean, I have a simple question. Why on earth would I become a? I mean, it's a very drastic question, but I'm sorry if it hurts people. But I did not bring a child into this world to see that suffer financially. I will support it any way I can. If it means cutting into my retirement corpus, I will do it. That's how I am. You can call me whatever you want. I don't care. You're not going to pay my bills. I will support my parents, my children in any way I can, and there are no two things about it, and that's the reason why I have created this poll. Maybe talking about it and may influence the results, but I don't care. So the first question is: are you a parent? Yes, no. Plan to start a family soon? That's fine. Also, this is a can be a touchy question. Will you have a second child if you cannot afford one? That is, if you are first of all, let's talk about this in a little bit in some detail. First of all, the mistake I did, and I've talked about this, is I waited to have uh, my son, who is my only child. I waited to have my son until until I was financially, stabilized. That was a big mistake, and I would suggest don't do it. Even if you cannot afford, that is, even at that stage, even if you cannot pay for a good school, or even at that point invest enough for college fees, have the first child as early as possible, because there is a biological window for both men and women in there, and that's a mistake I did. Don't make that mistake. Have the first child. There's no question there. You can take that chance. You can take that gamble and assume your income will increase or you will somehow manage. There's no problem there. I'm not talking about that, so don't freak at me without understanding. I'm talking about the second child. So you have a first child, and maybe you have barely able to manage investing for your retirement and investing for the first child's education, maybe marriage, whatever it is. Will you have a second child if you cannot afford one? That is, the moment you have a second child, you have a second college fee to pay, or you have a second marriage to plan, if that is your thing. Otherwise, don't. But have you done that calculation? Will you have a second child even if you cannot afford one? That's my question. Which means you have to do that calculation. And this can be even more tricky, and I'm sorry if it hurts. If you have two children or more than two children, have you checked if you can afford their college fee and still be able to fund your retirement? Here's a simple thumb rule. For your retirement, you have to invest, including your mandatory pension contribution that goes away. Including that, the total sum you need to invest should be minimum 75% of your essential monthly expenses, excluding your EMI, excluding their school fees. Essential monthly expenses for a family of two, that is for you and yourself, assuming your children will be independent. 75% of essential monthly expenses, including your mandatory pension contribution, should be put away for retirement, assuming it is a long-term goal, and assuming 50 to 60% of it is in equity. That's the thumb rule for retirement. Given that, will you still be able to afford for your school, school fee? Or sorry, I have to ask whether you can afford school fee these days. Whether you can afford college fees, and forget about marriage. At least college fees for both children. Have you done this exercise? If you have not done it, please do it. Have you checked? You must. That's what I want to know. And this is emotional, and I have already told you what I would do. Will you take out money from your retirement funds if your child needs it for college? I'm not asking first child or second child here. It's a very general question. Both childs are the same. Both children are the same. Otherwise, there's no point, right? I mean, having a second one. If you're going to think like that, I think like that sometimes. How can I divide my love with a second child and so on? I have stupid things. I think stupid thoughts like that. But will you take out money from your retirement funds if your child needs it for college? Are you planning for your children's wedding? And this is something. No. They must have their own wedding and so on. All this talk is very nice, but what happens in reality is, wedding. By the way, wedding. Have you ever noticed how expensive weddings have become recently? Many of the expenses are unnecessary, but because of some peer pressure, they did it, she did it, so I will do it, that kind of thing. There's too many expenses, and parents will end up contributing at least 10%, 15%, 20% of the wedding, even if they don't contribute the full sum. So where will that 20% come from? From your retirement corpus? So you have to plan for it, right? So don't immediately say no without thinking. So think through and then answer this poll. I would request you to participate. I will share the results after there is enough participation. I'm hoping at least 200, 300 people will participate. I hope so. So what are your plans with your children? Have you thought about their education? My suggestion is, I have given you the thumb rule for retirement. That will be the first priority. Put that as the first priority. You use inflation as 10% for your children's college fees, and find out from your neighbors or your friends who have just whose kids have just entered college. Find out the initial fee, the first year fee you have to pay, the capitation fee you have to pay, the transport charges, yearly tuition fees. Add them all up. That will be your current cost of education, inflated by 10% using the age of your first child, second child, as the case may be. And then find out for a portfolio of, let's say, you have at least 10 years, you can have somewhere between 40 to 50% equity, and then you have to taper it down. Please recognize starting early for children's education, investing for children's education is super crucial. I started for my son's education a month before he was born. So I have been investing already for almost 10 years now. This December, I've been investing 10 years for my son's education. And like I said earlier, I have already achieved my target. My son is only 4, but today if he wants to go to engineering college, I can fund him. So that target has been achieved. I have to keep building on it. My job is not done, but I'm trying to tell you that time is super essential. So if I have offended you in any way, I'm sorry. It is only to make you think. Please participate in this poll and let me know any thoughts you have in this regard. Bye bye.